The snow fell like frozen tears against the living room window as Naomi Carter watched her world crumble in real time. Her hands shook as she held the eviction notice, not from a landlord but from her own husband of 10 years. "You have until midnight to get out," Robert said, his voice cold as the December wind rattling their Chicago apartment. He wouldn't even look at 8-year-old Lily, who sat in her wheelchair by the Christmas tree they decorated together just 3 days ago. The little girl's brown eyes, so bright and knowing, darted between her parents with the kind of understanding that broke hearts. "Robert, please," Naomi whispered, her nurse's uniform still wrinkled from her 12-hour shift at the hospital. "It's Christmas Eve. Lily's been looking forward to Santa coming. You can't just." "I can and I am." He finally turned, and Naomi saw a stranger wearing her husband's face. "Simone's moving in tomorrow. This is her place now." Naomi's breath caught. Simone. The real estate agent who'd been showing Robert investment properties for months. The woman whose perfume lingered on his shirts, whose phone calls made him step outside, whose very existence had been eating away at their marriage like cancer. "Daddy?" Lily's voice was small but clear. Despite her cerebral palsy affecting her motor skills, her speech was perfect, something that had always amazed the doctors. "Are we really leaving?" Robert's jaw tightened. He'd never been comfortable with Lily's condition, never fully accepted that their daughter's physical challenges didn't define her worth. "Your mother will figure something out." The cruelty of it hit Naomi like a physical blow. "Not we. Your mother." As if he'd already erased himself from their family equation. "Robert, she's your daughter too," Naomi said, fighting to keep her voice steady. "Look at her. Really look at her." But he was already walking toward the bedroom. "Pack light. Simone doesn't want any of your old furniture anyway." Naomi sank to her knees beside Lily's wheelchair, taking her daughter's small hands in hers. The little girl's fingers moved differently than other children's, sometimes jerky, sometimes trembling, but they were warm and real and everything that mattered in Naomi's world. "Mama, why is Daddy being mean?" Lily asked, her voice carrying that peculiar wisdom that children with special needs sometimes possessed. "Did I do something wrong?" "No, baby. Never." Naomi smoothed Lily's dark curls, so much like her own. "Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices. But that's not your fault, okay?" Through the thin walls, they could hear Robert on the phone with Simone, his voice warm and loving in a way it hadn't been with his own family in months. "Yeah, baby, they'll be gone by midnight. We can have our first Christmas morning together right here." Naomi felt something die inside her chest. 10 years of marriage, of building a life together, of supporting him through job losses and his father's death, of caring for their special needs daughter together. All of it erased for a woman who'd never even met Lily. The front door slammed. Through the window, Naomi watched Robert load suitcases into Simone's silver BMW. Even from 3 floors up, she could see the woman's satisfied smile, her perfect hair, her designer coat that probably cost more than Naomi made in a month. "Mama?" Lily's voice brought her back to the moment. "The snow is really pretty. Like the snow globes at the hospital gift shop." The hospital. Where Naomi worked herself to exhaustion to pay for Lily's physical therapy, her medical equipment, her special schooling. Where she picked up extra shifts to save for Christmas presents that would now have nowhere to go. "Yes, sweetheart. It's beautiful." Naomi's voice cracked despite her efforts. "Want to help Mama pack our special things?" As they gathered their belongings, Lily's adaptive toys, her communication device, her medications, the few photos Robert hadn't already removed from frames, Naomi tried to make it feel like an adventure. But inside, terror clawed at her. Where could they go at midnight on Christmas Eve? Her meager savings would maybe cover a motel for a few nights. After that, "Mama, look." Lily pointed to the window with her trembling hand. "The Christmas star is really bright tonight." Naomi looked up at the winter sky, seeing only darkness and the harsh glow of streetlights. But Lily saw something else, something that made her smile despite everything falling apart around them. "Make a wish on it, Mama. Like in the stories." Naomi closed her eyes and wished for nothing more than a safe place for her daughter to sleep. Just that. Just a warm bed for a little girl who'd never asked for any of this. At 11:47 p.m., they stood in the hallway outside their former apartment, 2 suitcases and Lily's wheelchair between them and homelessness. The Christmas wreath on their door, their former door, mocked them with its cheerful red bow. "Where are we going, Mama?" Lily asked as Naomi pushed her wheelchair toward the elevator. Naomi didn't answer because she didn't know. All she knew was that her daughter was counting on her, and somehow, some way, she would not let her down. The elevator doors closed on their old life, carrying them into an uncertain future where the only thing guaranteed was their love for each other. And somewhere in the back of her mind, Naomi heard Lily's voice again. The Christmas star is really bright tonight. Maybe stars weren't just for wishing. Maybe they were for hoping. The bitter Chicago wind cut through their thin coats as Naomi pushed Lily's wheelchair down the empty sidewalk. Christmas lights twinkled in windows they passed, each one a reminder of the warmth they'd lost. The suitcases balanced on the back of the wheelchair made steering difficult, but Naomi pressed on, her breath forming clouds in the freezing air. "Mama, I'm cold," Lily said, her small voice nearly lost in the wind. "I know, baby. We're going to find somewhere warm soon." Naomi tried to sound confident, but inside, panic was building. Every motel she'd called from the hospital payphone earlier had been either full or beyond her budget. The homeless shelters had waiting lists. And it was past midnight on Christmas Eve, everything was closed. They passed a 24-hour diner, its neon sign flickering weakly. Through the window, Naomi could see a few lonely souls nursing coffee cups, probably with nowhere else to go either. At least it was warm inside. "Can we go in there, Mama? My hands are getting stiff." Naomi looked at her daughter's hands, always a concern in cold weather due to her condition. The last thing Lily needed was to get sick on top of everything else. The bell chimed as they entered. The diner smelled like coffee and disinfectant, but it was blessedly warm. A tired-looking waitress with kind eyes approached them. "Just you two tonight?" she asked, taking in Lily's wheelchair and their obvious displacement. "Yes. Could we get a table, please? Somewhere warm for my daughter?" The waitress, whose name tag read Betty, led them to a booth near the heater. "Let me get you some hot chocolate for the little one." "On the house." As Lily warmed her hands around the mug, Naomi stared at her phone. She'd already called everyone she could think of. Her parents had passed years ago. Robert's family had always been cold to her, especially after Lily was born. Her few friends from nursing school were scattered across the country now. There was one number she'd been avoiding. One person she'd sworn she'd never burden with her problems. "Mama, why are you crying?" Lily asked, reaching across the table with her trembling hand. "I'm not crying, baby. Just tired." But she was crying, silent tears that she wiped away quickly. "Tell you what, why don't you work on that puzzle app while Mama makes a phone call?" Lily nodded and focused on her tablet. One of the few things that helped with her fine motor skills and kept her brilliant mind engaged. Naomi watched her daughter's face light up as she solved complex pattern puzzles that would challenge most adults. With shaking fingers, Naomi dialed her grandmother's number. "Grandma Rose? It's Naomi. Child? What are you doing calling at this hour? Don't tell me that man of yours got you working Christmas morning." Naomi's voice broke. "Grandma Robert, he threw us out. Tonight. Lily and I, we have nowhere to go." The silence on the other end stretched so long Naomi thought the call had dropped. "Grandma Rose? I'm here, baby. I'm here." Her grandmother's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. "Where are you right now?" "Mel's Diner on State Street." "Grandma, I don't know what to do. I've got maybe $300 to my name, and nowhere that'll take us on Christmas Eve. You listen to me, Naomi Carter. You get yourself and that precious grandbaby of mine in a taxi right now. You hear me? Right now. Grandma, your place is so small, and with your arthritis. Don't you dare. Don't you dare worry about this old woman when my grandbaby and great-grandbaby need help. You get in that taxi." Naomi felt the first spark of hope she'd had all night. "Are you sure?" "Baby, I've been praying for years that you'd leave that man. He never deserved you or Lily. Never. Now come home." Home. The word hit Naomi like a warm embrace. Grandma Rose's tiny apartment in Bronzeville wasn't much, but it had always been filled with more love than anywhere else Naomi had ever known. "Thank you, Grandma. We'll be there soon." "And Naomi? Bring that sweet girl's Christmas presents if you manage to save them. Santa still needs to come, you hear?" Through her tears, Naomi managed to smile. "I hear you, Grandma." 20 minutes later, they stood outside the familiar brownstone where Naomi had spent her teenage years after her parents died. The building was old but well-maintained, with Christmas decorations in several windows despite the late hour. Grandma Rose opened the door before they could knock, as if she'd been waiting by the window. She looked exactly as Naomi remembered, silver hair and neat braids, warm brown skin lined with wisdom, wearing the same faded pink robe she'd had for decades. "Come here, my babies," she said, wrapping them both in arms that still felt strong despite her 72 years. "Great-grandma." Lily's face lit up for the first time all night. "Mama said we're having a sleepover." "That's right, sugar. The best sleepover ever." Look here, I've got the pull-out couch all ready with my warmest blankets. As Grandma Rose helped them settle in, Naomi noticed how easily her grandmother interacted with Lily, never treating her differently because of her wheelchair, never speaking down to her because of her physical challenges. She'd always understood what Robert never could, that Lily's mind was extraordinary. Now, Grandma Rose said once Lily was tucked in on the couch, you want to tell me what finally made you see what the rest of us have known about that man? Naomi sat at the small kitchen table where she'd done her homework as a teenager. He's been having an affair. Tonight he chose her over us. Said Lily and I had to be gone by midnight so she could move in. Grandma Rose's eyes flashed with an anger Naomi had rarely seen. On Christmas Eve. With his own child. He never really accepted Lily's condition. I think he was embarrassed by her. That man is a fool. Anyone with eyes can see that child is special. Not just special needs, special gifted. The way she figures out those puzzles, the questions she asks, the way she sees things. Grandma Rose shook her head. Mark my words, that little girl is going to surprise everyone someday. As if summoned by their conversation, Lily called out from the couch. Great-grandma? I can't sleep. Can you tell me a story? Of course, baby. Let me tell you about the Christmas when your mama was little and she thought Santa forgot about her. Listening to her grandmother's gentle voice weaving tales of resilience and hope, Naomi felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Peace. They were safe. They were loved. And tomorrow was Christmas. For the first time since this nightmare began, that felt like enough. Christmas morning sunlight streamed through Grandma Rose's lace curtains, casting dancing patterns across the small living room. Naomi woke to the sound of Lily's delighted laughter, a sound that had been too rare in recent months. Mama, look. Santa found us. Naomi sat up on the pull-out couch to see Lily in her wheelchair beside a pile of wrapped presents that definitely hadn't been there the night before. Grandma Rose stood in the doorway wearing a Christmas sweater that was at least 20 years old, her face glowing with satisfaction. Grandma, you didn't have to. Hush now. Christmas is Christmas no matter where you spend it. Rose wheeled herself into the kitchen. Besides, I've been saving up these gifts for months. Had a feeling this day might come. As Lily unwrapped each present with careful, determined fingers, Naomi realized her grandmother had chosen each gift specifically for her granddaughter's needs and interests. Educational puzzles that would challenge her mind, art supplies adapted for her fine motor skills, books that were advanced for her age but perfect for her reading level. Great-grandma, how did you know I wanted the astronomy book? Lily asked, hugging the thick volume to her chest. A little bird told me you've been asking questions about stars and planets. Besides, smart girls like you need books that match their brains, not their age. Watching her daughter's joy, Naomi felt the first real smile she'd had in weeks cross her face. But underneath the warmth, worry gnawed at her. What now? She couldn't impose on her grandmother forever, not with Rose's fixed income and small space. After breakfast, while Lily was absorbed in one of her new puzzle books, Naomi helped her grandmother with the dishes. Grandma, I need to start looking for a place. I can't keep you up with our problems. Rose dried a plate with more force than necessary. Problems? That child is not a problem. She's a blessing you don't even fully understand yet. I know she's wonderful, but nothing. Naomi, I've taught children for 40 years. I know exceptional when I see it. Lily isn't just smart, she's genius level. That brain of hers is wasted in regular classes with teachers who don't understand what they're dealing with. Naomi paused, dish towel in hand. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe this mess with Robert is God's way of giving you a push. When's the last time you had Lily properly tested? Really tested, not just for her physical therapy needs. The question hung in the air. When was the last time? The school district had done basic assessments for her IEP, but they'd focused on her physical limitations, not her intellectual capacity. And Robert had always dismissed any suggestion that Lily might be intellectually gifted. She's different enough already, he'd say whenever Naomi brought it up. Don't make her more of an outsider. I don't know, Grandma. The testing is expensive and right now I can barely. Child, listen to me. Rose took Naomi's hands in her weathered ones. Yesterday that little girl solved a 500-piece puzzle in 2 hours. Then she read 3 chapters of that science book and explained photosynthesis to me better than some high school students could. This morning she's been working on calculus problems she found online. Calculus. Naomi's heart stopped. She's 8 years old. Exactly my point. Promise me you'll at least call the children's hospital where you work. They have that gifted program, don't they? Dr. Williams runs it? Dr. Patricia Williams. Naomi knew her by reputation, a brilliant woman who specialized in identifying and nurturing intellectually gifted children, especially those with physical challenges or learning differences. But getting an appointment with her was nearly impossible. "Great-grandma?" Lily called from the living room. "Can I show you something cool I figured out?" They walked over to find Lily had arranged her art supplies in a complex pattern on the coffee table. "Look, if you arrange the colors by wavelength instead of what they look like, you can predict how they'll mix. See, I made a whole color theory chart." Naomi stared at her daughter's work. It was sophisticated, methodical, and completely beyond what most children her age could conceive, let alone execute with hands that struggled to hold crayons steady. "Lily, sweetheart, where did you learn about wavelengths?" "From the astronomy book. It talked about light from stars and I realized it's the same thing as paint colors, just different. Everything's connected if you think about it right." Grandma Rose shot Naomi a look that said, "I told you so," without words. That afternoon, while Lily napped, Naomi found herself staring at Dr. Williams's number on her phone. What if her grandmother was right? What if Lily's potential was being completely wasted because everyone, including herself, had been so focused on her limitations that they'd missed her extraordinary gifts? The phone rang 4 times before a professional voice answered. Dr. Williams's office. "Hi, my name is Naomi Carter. I'm a nurse at Children's Hospital, and I was wondering about getting my daughter tested for your gifted program." "I'm sorry, but Dr. Williams has a waiting list that's months long. Unless it's an emergency referral from one of our doctors." "It might be," Naomi said quickly. "My daughter, she's 8 years old with cerebral palsy, but she's been doing things that seem impossible for her age. Calculus, advanced color theory, complex pattern recognition." Pause. "Hold please." Naomi's heart hammered as she waited. This was crazy. She was probably overreacting, seeing genius where there was just, "Mrs. Carter? Dr. Williams would like to speak with you." Another pause, then a warm, intelligent voice came on the line. "Mrs. Carter, I understand you believe your daughter might be intellectually gifted despite having cerebral palsy. Can you tell me more about what you've observed?" For the next 20 minutes, Naomi described everything she'd noticed about Lily's abilities, everything she'd dismissed as just being smart. Dr. Williams listened without interruption. "Mrs. Carter, I'd like to see your daughter as soon as possible. Are you available tomorrow morning? I know it's short notice, but what you're describing suggests we shouldn't wait." "Tomorrow? Really? Really?" Sometimes exceptional minds reveal themselves in the most unexpected circumstances. "I have a feeling your daughter might be one of those special cases." After hanging up, Naomi sat in stunned silence. Could it really be possible that in the middle of losing everything, she'd discovered something extraordinary about her child? From the living room came the sound of Lily's voice, talking to her great-grandmother about something called fractal patterns and snowflakes. Maybe, just maybe, their Christmas Eve nightmare was about to become something miraculous. The Children's Hospital felt different when Naomi walked through the doors as a parent instead of a nurse. Her hands trembled as she pushed Lily's wheelchair through the familiar corridors, past the pediatric ward where she worked night shifts, toward Dr. Williams's office in the developmental psychology wing. "Mama, why are you nervous?" Lily asked, looking up from the advanced physics book she'd been reading. "You work here. This is like your second home." "I'm not nervous, sweetheart. Just excited for you to meet Dr. Williams." But Naomi was nervous. What if she'd been wrong? What if she'd built up false hopes? What if Robert had been right all along, and she was just a mother seeing things that weren't there? Dr. Williams's office was warm and inviting, filled with complex puzzles, advanced books, and artwork clearly created by children, but not typical children's art. These pieces showed mathematical precision, scientific understanding, and artistic vision far beyond elementary school age. Dr. Williams herself was a petite woman with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, her graying hair pulled back in a practical bun. She greeted them with the easy warmth of someone who understood that exceptional children often came in unexpected packages. "You must be Lily," she said, kneeling to Lily's eye level. "I'm Dr. Williams, but you can call me Dr. Pat if that's easier." "Thank you for seeing us," Lily said with the formal politeness that sometimes made her seem older than her 8 years. "Mama says you help kids who think differently." "That's exactly what I do. And I'm very interested in how you think. Your mother told me some fascinating things about you." For the next 3 hours, Dr. Williams put Lily through a battery of tests that Naomi had never seen before. Not medical tests, but cognitive assessments that seemed to challenge every aspect of her daughter's thinking ability. Lily solved spatial puzzles that would challenge high school students. She demonstrated mathematical reasoning that made Dr. Williams's eyebrows climb higher and higher. She analyzed complex patterns, drew connections between seemingly unrelated concepts, and answered questions that revealed a depth of understanding that left both adults speechless. "Lily, I'm going to show you something and I want you to tell me what you see," Dr. Williams said, displaying a series of numbers on her computer screen. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. "Oh, that's a Fibonacci sequence," Lily said immediately. "Each number is the sum of the two before it. It shows up everywhere in nature: flower petals, seashells, the spiral of galaxies. It's one of the ways math and art are the same thing." Dr. Williams looked at Naomi with an expression of wonder. "Lily, where did you learn about the Fibonacci sequence?" "I figured it out from looking at sunflowers in great-grandma's garden last summer. Then I found it in some of the books at the library. Math is everywhere if you know how to look." The testing continued. Lily's reading comprehension was at a high school level. Her mathematical reasoning tested beyond what the standard assessments could measure. Her pattern recognition and spatial intelligence were extraordinary. But it was when Dr. Williams asked Lily to solve a problem designed for gifted teenagers that even she was stunned into silence. "Lily, imagine you have a rope that goes all the way around the Earth at the equator, fitting perfectly tight against the ground. Now, if you add just 6 feet to that rope and lift it evenly all around, how far off the ground would the rope be everywhere?" Most adults would guess inches. The correct answer, that the rope would be approximately 1 foot off the ground everywhere, requires understanding that the relationship between circumference and radius is constant regardless of the circle's size. Lily closed her eyes for less than 30 seconds. "About 1 foot. The extra circumference gets distributed as radius increase, and since c equals 2 pi r, adding 6 feet to c means adding about 1 foot to r, no matter how big the circle starts out." Dr. Williams set down her pen and stared at this 8-year-old girl in a wheelchair who had just demonstrated mathematical intuition that most college students couldn't achieve. "Mrs. Carter, I need to speak with you privately for a moment." They stepped into the hallway, leaving Lily absorbed in a quantum physics book she'd found on Dr. Williams's shelf, and actually understanding it. "Mrs. Carter, in 30 years of working with gifted children, I have rarely seen anything like this. Your daughter isn't just gifted. She's profoundly, exceptionally gifted. Her IQ tests at the 99.9th percentile, higher than we can accurately measure with our standard assessments." Naomi felt the world tilt. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying your daughter is a genius. Not just smart, not just advanced for her age, a genuine once-in-a-generation genius. Her mind works at a level that most adults never reach." Tears started flowing down Naomi's cheeks. But her cerebral palsy, her physical limitations, have absolutely nothing to do with her intellectual capacity. In fact, I suspect that because people have focused so much on her physical challenges, her intellectual gifts have been completely overlooked. She's probably been bored out of her mind in regular classrooms. Oh my God. Naomi thought about all the times Lily had seemed restless in school, all the times teachers had suggested she wasn't applying herself, all the times Robert had dismissed her questions as too complicated. What do we do now? Now we get her into appropriate educational programs. I run a special school for profoundly gifted children, kids whose minds work like Lily's. We have adaptive technology for physical challenges, but more importantly, we have teachers who understand how to nurture genius-level intellects. Dr. Williams, we just lost our home. My husband left us. I don't have money for special schools. Mrs. Carter, children like Lily are exactly why scholarship programs exist. Her potential is too extraordinary to waste because of financial circumstances. Trust me, we'll find a way." When they returned to the office, Lily was drawing complex geometric patterns while simultaneously reading about theoretical physics. "Lily," Dr. Williams said, "how would you feel about going to a school where all the kids are as smart as you are, where you can learn about things like advanced mathematics and quantum theory and astrophysics?" Lily's eyes lit up with the first pure joy Naomi had seen in months. "Really? There are other kids who think about things like how time might be curved and why prime numbers are distributed the way they are." "Really? And they all think you're going to fit right in." As they left the hospital that afternoon, Naomi felt as if she were walking in a dream. Her daughter, her beautiful, complicated, challenging daughter, was a genius. Not despite her cerebral palsy, but simply in addition to it. "Mama?" Lily said as they waited for the bus. "I'm sorry Daddy left us. But maybe it's okay. Maybe now I can learn things that match how my brain works." Naomi knelt beside her daughter's wheelchair, looking into eyes that held intelligence far beyond her years. Baby, your daddy leaving us was his loss, not ours. And you know what? I think you're right. I think maybe this is exactly where we're supposed to be. For the first time since Christmas Eve, Naomi felt hope blooming in her chest. Not just hope for survival, but hope for something extraordinary. Her daughter was going to change the world. And nothing, not Robert, not poverty, not anyone's limitations, was going to stop her. 3 weeks into January, Naomi stood in the hallway of the Prometheus Academy, watching her daughter navigate her wheelchair through doors that opened automatically, past walls covered with student projects that looked more like graduate research than elementary school work. Mom, look at this. Lily called out, pointing to a display case filled with models of molecular structures. They have actual fullerene models. And look, someone made a working demonstration of quantum superposition. The transformation in Lily over the past 3 weeks had been remarkable. Gone was the restless, sometimes frustrated child who had struggled to fit into traditional classrooms. In her place was a vibrant, engaged 8-year-old who woke up every morning excited about learning. Mrs. Carter? A voice called from behind them. Naomi turned to see Ms. Jennifer Clark, Lily's new teacher. Though teacher seemed inadequate for someone with a doctorate in theoretical physics who specialized in educating profoundly gifted children. How's our girl doing? Naomi asked, watching Lily roll toward a group of children clustered around a computer displaying what looked like complex mathematical equations. Remarkable. In 3 weeks, she's already working at a level that challenges our most advanced students. Yesterday she proposed a solution to a geometry problem that our high school calculus students had been struggling with. The method she used was so elegant that Dr. Williams is considering submitting it to a mathematics journal. Naomi shook her head in wonder. I still can't believe this is real. Believe it? Your daughter is extraordinary. But more than that, she's happy. Watch her. Naomi looked across the classroom where Lily was animatedly discussing something with 3 other students, all of whom looked older than her but seemed to accept her as an equal. Her face glowed with the kind of joy that came from finally being understood. Hi Lily, called out a boy who looked about 10. Want to see what Marcus and I figured out about prime number distribution? Marcus turned out to be a 12-year-old girl with braids who gestured enthusiastically as she explained their discovery. We think there might be a pattern that nobody's found yet. Want to help us prove it? Watching her daughter collaborate with children who shared her intellectual gifts, Naomi felt a pang of sadness for all the years Lily had been isolated, misunderstood, held back by systems that couldn't see past her wheelchair. Mrs. Carter? Miss Clark touched her arm gently. There's something else we need to discuss. Dr. Williams would like to see you. They walked to Dr. Williams's office, where the psychologist was waiting with a folder thick with papers and a smile that seemed to barely contain excitement. Naomi, please sit down. I have some news that's going to change everything. Good news, I hope? Extraordinary news. I've been documenting Lily's progress and abilities, and I've submitted her case to the Davidson Institute. They provide support for profoundly gifted children. They're offering her a full scholarship to their summer program at a major university. Naomi's mind reeled. University? She's 8 years old. The papers detailed Robert's petition for full custody of Lily, claiming that Naomi was exploiting their daughter's supposed intellectual gifts and subjecting her to inappropriate academic pressure by enrolling her in experimental educational programs. Mama, what's wrong? Lily asked, looking up from the quantum physics textbook she'd been reading. Nothing, baby. Just some boring grown-up papers. But it wasn't nothing. As Naomi read through the legal documents, she realized Robert had hired an expensive lawyer and was painting her as an unstable mother who was pushing her disabled child beyond her limits. He claimed the Prometheus Academy was unregulated and that Lily belonged in appropriate special education classes for children with her condition. The hearing was set for 2 weeks away. That evening, after Lily was asleep, Naomi sat at Grandma Rose's kitchen table with the legal papers spread before her, tears flowing freely. I can't afford a lawyer like his, she told her grandmother. What if he wins? What if they make her go back to regular special ed classes where she'll be bored and misunderstood again? Grandma Rose poured 2 cups of tea and sat down across from her. Baby, that man has made the biggest mistake of his life. He's about to go into court and argue that his own daughter isn't as brilliant as she actually is. But what if the judge believes him? What if they think I'm just a delusional mother? Then we make sure they see the truth. We bring witnesses. We bring proof. We bring that beautiful, brilliant child herself. The next morning, Dr. Williams called with news that made Naomi's heart race. Naomi, I heard about Robert's custody petition. I want you to know that every professional who has worked with Lily will testify on your behalf. Her intelligence isn't opinion, it's documented fact. Dr. Williams, I'm so scared. What if? Stop. Listen to me. I have been working with gifted children for 3 decades. I have testified in dozens of custody cases. Judges aren't stupid, Naomi. When they see the evidence of Lily's abilities, when they understand what you've done to nurture her gifts, Robert's case will fall apart. Over the next week, something remarkable happened. The entire community that had embraced Lily rallied around their family. Miss Clark volunteered to testify about Lily's academic achievements. The parents of Lily's classmates at Prometheus offered to speak about how happy and well-adjusted she was in her new environment. Even more surprising, Dr. Sarah Kim from the university where Lily would be taking summer courses called to offer her support. Mrs. Carter, your daughter is the youngest student ever accepted into our program. Her entrance exam scores were higher than most graduate students. Any court that tries to argue she doesn't belong in advanced academic programs will be arguing against objective evidence. But it was Grandma Rose who provided the most crucial support. I've been making some calls, she told Naomi 3 days before the hearing. Turns out your friend Mrs. Eleanor from next door saw everything that happened on Christmas Eve. And she's got some interesting things to say about Robert and his lady friend. Mrs. Eleanor Davis was a retired legal secretary who had lived next door to Naomi and Robert for 6 years. She had witnessed Robert loading suitcases into Simone's car while his wife and disabled daughter were being evicted into the snow. I saw that man put his own child on the street on Christmas Eve, she told Naomi firmly. No judge in their right mind is going to give custody to someone who would do that. The day of the hearing arrived gray and cold. Naomi wore her best dress, the same one she'd worn to Lily's IEP meetings back when her biggest worry was getting her daughter appropriate accommodations for her handwriting difficulties. How far they'd come. Robert sat across the courtroom with Simone and his expensive lawyer, looking confident and well-dressed. He barely glanced at Lily, who sat quietly in her wheelchair, a folder of her recent academic work on her lap. Judge Monica Thompson was a stern-looking woman in her 50s who had a reputation for cutting through nonsense and focusing on children's best interests. Robert's lawyer presented their case first, painting a picture of an unstable mother pushing her disabled child into inappropriate academic situations. Your Honor, this child has cerebral palsy. She belongs in special education classes designed for her needs, not in some experimental program that could cause psychological damage. My client is concerned that his daughter is being exploited for her supposed intellectual gifts. When it was time for Naomi's response, her court-appointed attorney, a young public defender who was clearly outmatched, stood nervously. Your Honor, we believe that Lily Carter is exactly where she belongs, in educational programs that meet her actual intellectual needs. Judge Thompson looked skeptical. Counselor, I'm going to need more than beliefs. This court deals in facts. That's when Dr. Williams stood up from the gallery. Your Honor, if I may? Dr. Williams? I know you by reputation. You may approach. Your Honor, I have with me documented evidence of this child's intellectual assessments, her academic achievements, and her psychological well-being. I request permission to present this evidence and to have the child herself demonstrate her capabilities. Judge Thompson nodded. Granted. For the next hour, Dr. Williams methodically presented the evidence. Lily's test scores, her academic work, testimonials from her teachers, photos of her thriving at Prometheus Academy. Then she called Lily herself to the witness stand. Lily, can you tell the judge about your school? With the calm confidence of a child who finally knew her worth, Lily began to speak. She talked about the mathematics research she was conducting. She explained the physics concepts she was studying. She described the friends she'd made who understood how her mind worked. Your Honor, Lily said, looking directly at the judge, I know I'm different because of my cerebral palsy. My hands don't work like other kids' hands and I need my wheelchair to get around. But my brain works just fine. Better than fine, actually. And for the first time in my life, I'm in a place where people understand that. Judge Thompson leaned forward. Lily, what would you say if I told you some people think you should go back to regular special education classes? Lily was quiet for a moment, then spoke with heartbreaking clarity. I would say that would be like asking a bird to live underwater. I could survive, but I couldn't fly. The courtroom was completely silent. Judge Thompson looked at Robert. Mr. Carter, I have one question for you. On what grounds do you believe your daughter would be better served in your custody when the evidence shows she is thriving in her current environment? Robert's lawyer whispered frantically in his ear, but Robert stood up on his own. Your Honor, I just think. She's still my daughter, and I think this whole genius thing is being blown out of proportion. She's a special needs kid. She should be in special needs classes. Mr. Carter, did you attend any of your daughter's IEP meetings over the past 2 years? Robert shifted uncomfortably. Well, no, but... Have you visited her current school? No, but... Have you reviewed any of her academic work or spoken to any of her teachers? Your Honor, I don't think that's... Mr. Carter, have you had any meaningful contact with your daughter since you evicted her and her mother from their home on Christmas Eve? The courtroom was dead silent. Robert's face flushed red. It wasn't like that. Mr. Carter, we have a witness who observed you loading suitcases into another woman's car while your disabled daughter was being put out on the street. Is that accurate? Naomi watched Robert realize his case was falling apart in real time. Judge Thompson didn't even recess to consider her decision. I have rarely seen such clear-cut evidence in a custody case. This child is demonstrably thriving in her current environment. She is receiving appropriate education, medical care, and emotional support. Most importantly, she is loved and valued for who she is, not in spite of who she is. She looked directly at Robert. Mr. Carter, your petition for custody is denied. Furthermore, given your abandonment of this child and your apparent inability to understand or support her needs, I am limiting your visitation rights to supervised visits pending completion of parenting classes and family counseling. The gavel came down like a thunderclap. As they left the courthouse, Lily tugged on Naomi's sleeve. Mama? Are we going home to great-grandma's now? Yes, baby. We're going home. Good. I have a calculus problem to finish, and tomorrow Marcus and I are presenting our prime number research to the high school mathematics class. Walking out into the sunshine, Naomi realized that sometimes the best victories were the ones where you got to keep being exactly who you were meant to be. 6 months after the custody hearing, Naomi stood in the wings of the Chicago Science Museum's auditorium, watching her daughter make final adjustments to her presentation slides. At 9 years old, Lily was about to address an audience of mathematicians, scientists, and educators about her research into prime number distribution patterns. You ready, sweetheart? Naomi asked, kneeling beside Lily's wheelchair. I think so. Dr. Pat says when you're nervous, it means you care about doing well. Lily smoothed her new dress, a gift from Grandma Rose for this special occasion. Mama, do you think Daddy will see this on the news? The local media had picked up the story of the 9-year-old genius who was presenting original mathematical research. It was the kind of feel-good story that made headlines, especially with the added element of overcoming challenges. I don't know, baby. Does it matter to you? Lily considered this seriously. I used to want him to be proud of me. Now I just hope maybe he'll understand that there was never anything wrong with me. I was always exactly who I was supposed to be. The wisdom in her daughter's words took Naomi's breath away. At 9 years old, Lily had achieved something many adults never managed: complete self-acceptance. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lily Carter. The applause was thunderous as Lily rolled onto the stage. She looked tiny behind the podium, but her voice was clear and confident as she began to speak. Hi everyone. My name is Lily and I want to tell you about patterns. Most people think math is just numbers, but really, it's about finding the hidden connections that hold everything together. For the next 20 minutes, Lily presented research that had already caught the attention of university mathematics departments. Working with her friend Marcus from Prometheus Academy, she had identified potential patterns in prime number distribution that could have implications for cryptography and computer science. But more than the research itself, it was watching Lily command the stage that moved Naomi to tears. This confident, articulate young woman was the same child who had been labeled as struggling to meet grade-level expectations just 1 year ago. The really cool thing about prime numbers, Lily continued, is that they seem random, but randomness and patterns aren't opposites. Sometimes patterns are so complex they look like randomness until you find the right way to look at them. After her presentation, the audience rose in a standing ovation. During the Q&A session that followed, university professors asked questions that Lily answered with the ease of someone discussing the weather. Miss Carter, asked Dr. James Morrison from Northwestern University, have you considered the applications of your research to quantum computing? Actually, yes, Lily replied. Marcus and I think that if our pattern holds, it might help with quantum error correction. We're planning to test that hypothesis this summer when I start the university research program. Later, at the reception, Naomi watched her daughter interact with some of the most brilliant minds in Chicago. They spoke to her as an equal, genuinely interested in her ideas and insights. Dr. Williams approached with a woman Naomi didn't recognize. "Naomi, I'd like you to meet Dr. Angela Foster from the MacArthur Foundation. She's here because of Lily." The MacArthur Foundation. Naomi knew that name. They gave genius grants to extraordinary individuals doing innovative work. "Mrs. Carter, your daughter is remarkable. We've been following her progress and we'd like to discuss some opportunities that might interest you." Opportunities? Full funding for her education through graduate school, regardless of which university she chooses. Access to research facilities and mentorship programs. And when she's older, if her work continues at this level, possible consideration for one of our fellowships. Naomi felt dizzy. "She's 9 years old." Dr. Foster smiled. "Genius doesn't wait for convenient timing. We've learned it's better to nurture extraordinary minds early rather than wait and risk losing their potential." As the evening wound down, Naomi and Lily rode home with Grandma Rose, who had been beaming with pride all night. "Great-grandma, did you see? Dr. Morrison said my research was promising, and Dr. Chen said it was innovative," Lily chattered excitedly. "I saw everything, sugar. Your great-grandfather would have been so proud. He always said the smartest person in any room is usually someone people underestimate." That night, as Naomi tucked Lily into bed, her daughter asked the question she'd been dreading. "Mama, what if I get too smart for you? What if someday I know things you can't understand?" Naomi sat on the edge of the bed, choosing her words carefully. "Baby, you already know things I can't understand. You've been smarter than me since you were 6 years old. But you don't seem scared of that." "Why would I be scared? You're not smart instead of being my daughter. You're smart and you're my daughter. Those things don't compete with each other." Lily was quiet for a moment. "Daddy was scared of it, wasn't he?" "I think your daddy was scared of a lot of things. But that was about him, not about you." "I'm glad he's not here anymore," Lily said matter-of-factly. "Not because I don't love him, but because I like feeling proud of who I am instead of feeling like I should apologize for it." As Naomi turned off the light, she reflected on the extraordinary journey they'd taken. From being homeless on Christmas Eve to watching her daughter address an audience of scientists. It felt like a dream. But it wasn't a dream. It was simply what happened when a child was finally seen, understood, and given room to become who she was always meant to be. Her phone buzzed with a text message. For a moment, her heart clenched, thinking it might be Robert. But it was from Dr. Williams. "Amazing presentation tonight. CBS wants to interview Lily for their Sunday morning show. Are you interested?" Naomi looked toward Lily's room, where soft light spilled from under the door. Her daughter was probably reading advanced physics or working on mathematical proofs. Not because anyone was pushing her, but because that's what brought her joy. She typed back, "Yes. The world needs to see what's possible." And then she added, "Thank you for seeing her." Because that's what had changed everything. Not special schools or gifted programs or recognition. Someone had simply looked at her daughter and seen her, really seen her, for who she was. Sometimes that's all it takes to change a life forever. The CBS Sunday morning interview aired on a crisp October morning, exactly 10 months after their Christmas Eve nightmare. Naomi watched from the green room as her 10-year-old daughter sat across from veteran journalist Jane Pauley, discussing advanced mathematics with the calm confidence of someone who had finally found her place in the world. "Lily, you're working on research that most college students would find challenging. Do you ever feel like you're missing out on being a kid?" Jane asked. Lily tilted her head thoughtfully. "What does being a kid mean? If it means playing and learning and being curious about everything, then I do that all the time. I just play with numbers and concepts instead of toys. Although," she added with a grin, "I do really like video games, especially puzzle games." The interview had already covered Lily's mathematical research, her experience at Prometheus Academy, and the dramatic story of how her gifts were discovered after her family lost their home. But it was Lily's natural charm and wisdom that were capturing viewers' hearts. "Tell me about your support system. Who are the people who helped you get here?" "Well, my mama is amazing. She worked so hard and always believed in me even when other people didn't see what she saw. And my great-grandma Rose, she's the one who knew I was smart before anyone tested me. She said she could tell by the questions I asked." Lily paused, her expression growing more serious. "And Dr. Dr. Williams, she's the person who showed me I wasn't weird for thinking the way I do. She helped me understand that being different isn't the same thing as being wrong." "What about your father? I understand there was a custody situation?" Naomi held her breath. They had prepared for this question, but she wasn't sure how Lily would handle it on national television. "My birth father couldn't understand that someone could have cerebral palsy and still be smart," Lily said with remarkable composure. He thought those things couldn't go together. But they're completely separate. My brain works fine, my muscles just work differently. Some people get confused about that. Do you have a message for other children who might be in similar situations? Lily's eyes lit up with passion. Yes. If you know you're smart but nobody believes you, don't give up. Keep asking questions, keep learning, keep being curious. And if the grown-ups around you don't understand, find different grown-ups. There are people out there who will see you for who you really are. After the interview, the response was overwhelming. The CBS website crashed from traffic. Social media exploded with support for Lily and criticism of educational systems that fail to identify gifted children, especially those with physical disabilities. But it was the phone calls that really surprised Naomi. Dr. Foster from the MacArthur Foundation called first. Naomi, we've had 12 universities contact us about Lily since the interview aired 2 hours ago. MIT wants to discuss their early admission program. Stanford is interested in having her work with their child prodigy research team. Next was a literary agent. Mrs. Carter, have you considered writing a book about your journey? Publishers are already calling. Then came the speaking request. Organizations for gifted children, disability rights groups, educational conferences. Everyone wanted to hear their story. But the call that mattered most came from an unexpected source. Mrs. Carter? This is Principal Janet Rodriguez from Lincoln Elementary. I owe you an apology. Naomi recognized the voice immediately. Lincoln Elementary was where Lily had been enrolled before Prometheus Academy, where teachers had consistently underestimated her abilities. I watched your daughter on television this morning, Principal Rodriguez continued. I've been an educator for 20 years and I failed that child completely. We all did. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that we're changing our gifted identification protocols because of what happened with Lily. The apology was gratifying, but what mattered more was the potential impact. If Lily's story could help other children avoid being overlooked or misunderstood, then everything they'd been through would have even greater meaning. That evening, as Naomi helped Lily prepare for bed, she found her daughter reading letters that had been forwarded from CBS. Look, Mama, Lily said, holding up a crayon-written note. This is from a girl named Emma. She's 8 and she says her teachers think she's not smart because she can't write very well, but she understands calculus. Her mom saw me on TV and they're going to ask for better testing. Naomi looked at the stack of similar letters. Children and parents reaching out, sharing their stories of being misunderstood or underestimated. Lily's visibility was creating a movement. How does it feel to know you're helping other kids? Naomi asked. It feels like maybe everything happened the way it was supposed to, Lily said thoughtfully. If Daddy hadn't made us leave, I might never have been tested. I might still be sitting in regular classes, being bored and thinking something was wrong with me. She looked up at her mother with those wise eyes that never failed to amaze her. Sometimes the worst things that happen to you are actually the universe pushing you toward where you belong. 2 weeks later, they received a letter that made Naomi cry. It was from Robert. Naomi, I saw Lily on television. I saw what she can do, who she is. I was wrong. I was so wrong about everything. I don't expect forgiveness, and I know I don't deserve to be part of her life now. But I wanted you to know that I see her now. I see how extraordinary she is, and I see what an incredible mother you are. I'm proud of her. I know I don't have the right to be, but I am. Thank you for giving her what I couldn't. Robert. Lily read the letter without expression, then carefully folded it and put it away. Are you okay? Naomi asked. I'm okay, Lily said. It's good that he understands now. But understanding and being able to be a good father are different things. I think he knows that too. Do you want to see him? He has supervised visitation rights. Lily considered this seriously. Maybe someday. When I'm older and it won't confuse me. Right now, I want to focus on my research and my friends and the people who've always been there for me. That night, Naomi sat at the kitchen table with Grandma Rose, going through university brochures and program descriptions. MIT's early admission program. Stanford's accelerated learning track. Caltech's child prodigy research initiative. It's hard to believe this is real, Naomi said. Baby, this is just the beginning, Grandma Rose replied. That child of yours is going to change the world. And you're going to be right there beside her, making sure she never forgets where she came from and who loves her. Looking at the opportunities spread before them, Naomi felt grateful for every difficult step that had led them here. The eviction, the custody battle, the financial struggles, all of it had been necessary to get Lily to where she could truly shine. Sometimes the greatest gifts came wrapped in the worst circumstances. And sometimes being broken open was the only way to let the light get in. 1 year later, Naomi stood in the audience at the University of Chicago's Mandel Hall, watching her 11-year-old daughter receive the university's youngest ever undergraduate admission letter. Lily sat in her wheelchair on the stage, wearing her cap and gown from Prometheus Academy's special ceremony, as the dean read her extraordinary achievements. Miss Carter will be enrolling in our accelerated mathematics and physics program while continuing to work with Dr. Williams and the Prometheus Academy for her social and emotional development. She represents the future of education, programs designed around students' actual abilities rather than artificial age restrictions. The past year had been a whirlwind. Lily's research had been published in 3 academic journals. She'd presented at conferences across the country. She'd become the face of gifted education reform and disability rights advocacy. But through it all, she remained the same curious, compassionate child she'd always been. "Mama, look." Lily held up her admission packet. "They have a quantum computing lab, and Dr. Kim says I can start working there next semester." As they celebrated afterward with Grandma Rose and the Prometheus Academy community, Naomi reflected on how dramatically their lives had changed. The small apartment they now rented near the university was filled with advanced textbooks and research materials. The walls were covered with certificates and photos from Lily's presentations. But the most important thing hadn't changed. They were still a family built on love and mutual support. "Mrs. Carter?" A familiar voice interrupted her thoughts. She turned to see a young woman in her 20s, walking with crutches due to cerebral palsy. "I'm Sarah Martinez. You probably don't remember me, but I was in one of those letters your daughter received after her CBS interview." Naomi did remember. Sarah had written about being dismissed by teachers who focused on her physical challenges while ignoring her intellectual gifts. "Of course. How are you doing?" "I'm a sophomore at Northwestern now, studying bioengineering. I got proper testing after I saw Lily's story, and it changed everything. I wanted to thank you both." Watching Sarah and Lily talk about advanced physics concepts, Naomi realized this was becoming a pattern. Lily's visibility had opened doors for other twice-exceptional children, kids who were both gifted and had disabilities. Later that evening, as the celebration wound down, Dr. Williams approached Naomi with exciting news. "I've been waiting for the right moment to tell you this. The Department of Education has asked me to head up a new national initiative for identifying and supporting twice-exceptional children. They want to use Lily's case as the model program." "That's incredible. And they want you involved too. Your perspective as a parent who advocated for her child, who fought the system and won, that's invaluable. Would you consider becoming a parent advocate and speaker for the program?" Naomi looked across the room where Lily was showing Grandma Rose pictures from her latest research presentation. Her daughter was thriving in ways she never could have imagined 2 years ago. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "If we can help other families avoid what we went through, absolutely yes." 3 days later, they received an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Eleanor Davis from their old neighborhood knocked on their apartment door, carrying a large envelope. "Mrs. Davis, what a wonderful surprise." Naomi hugged their former neighbor. "What brings you here?" "Well, I have something for Lily. And some news about your old place." She handed Lily the envelope, which contained a framed certificate. "The City Council voted to give you the Young Citizen Award for your contributions to education and advocacy," Mrs. Davis explained. "But that's not the big news." She took a deep breath. "Robert and Simone broke up 6 months ago. Apparently she couldn't handle the financial pressure when he lost his job, and she left him for someone with more money. He had to sell the apartment and he's been living with his brother." Naomi felt a complex mix of emotions, not satisfaction exactly but a sense of justice. "I'm sorry to hear he's struggling." "Don't be too sorry. He brought it all on himself. But here's the thing, when he was packing up to move he found some things. Lily's baby pictures, her school projects, videos from when she was little. He asked me to give them to you." Mrs. Davis handed over a box of memories, photos, drawings, report cards from kindergarten when Lily's teachers had noted her exceptional curiosity and advanced problem-solving skills. Evidence of her giftedness that had been there all along, waiting for someone wise enough to recognize it. "There's a note from him too," Mrs. Davis added quietly. Naomi read it first before showing it to Lily. "Lily, I found these pictures and memories and I realized I threw away the most precious thing in my life. You were always extraordinary. I was just too stupid and scared to see it. I'm proud of who you've become, even though I can't take any credit for it. Your mother is a hero for seeing what I missed. I hope someday you can forgive me for not being the father you deserved." Love, Robert. Lily looked at the photos of herself as a toddler, already showing signs of the curiosity and intelligence that would later astound experts. There was one picture that particularly caught her attention. Herself at age 3, arranging blocks in complex mathematical patterns while other children played randomly. I was always like this, wasn't I? She said softly. Always, Naomi confirmed. You were just waiting for the world to catch up to who you were. That night, as Naomi tucked Lily into bed surrounded by university textbooks and research papers, her daughter asked a question that surprised her. Mama, do you ever wonder what would have happened if Daddy hadn't made us leave? If we'd stayed in that life? Naomi considered this carefully. Sometimes. Why do you ask? I think I would have been okay eventually. Smart kids usually find their way somehow. But I wouldn't have been happy. I wouldn't have found my people or my purpose as early as I did. Lily paused thoughtfully. And you wouldn't have discovered how strong you are. You might have spent your whole life letting someone else decide what we were worth. The wisdom in her 11-year-old daughter's words took Naomi's breath away. She was right. The trauma of that Christmas Eve had broken them open, but it had also freed them to become who they were meant to be. Sweet dreams, my brilliant girl, Naomi whispered, kissing her daughter's forehead. Mama? Thank you for never giving up on me. Even when you didn't understand how my brain worked, you never stopped believing I was worth fighting for. Baby, that was never in question. Not for one single day. As Naomi turned out the light, she reflected on their incredible journey. From homeless and heartbroken to celebrated and secure, it seemed impossible, but it had happened because of 3 things: a mother's unwavering love, a child's extraordinary gifts, and the courage to keep moving forward even when the path was unclear. Sometimes the best lives were built from the ashes of the worst moments. And sometimes losing everything was the only way to discover what you were truly capable of becoming. 5 years had passed since that devastating Christmas Eve, and Naomi stood in the wings of the Nobel Prize Ceremony's Youth Symposium in Stockholm, Sweden. At 16, Lily had become the youngest person ever to co-author research that contributed to a Nobel Prize in physics. Her work on quantum computing applications had revolutionized the field. Nervous? Naomi asked, adjusting Lily's formal dress. Excited, Lily corrected, her eyes sparkling with the same curiosity that had always defined her. Dr. Chin says my theoretical framework might change how we approach quantum error correction for the next decade. Lily had grown into a confident young woman, though she still used her wheelchair and still had the same brilliant mind that saw patterns where others saw chaos. She was now a sophomore at MIT while simultaneously working on her doctorate, but more importantly, she had become a voice for twice exceptional children around the world. Miss Carter, you're on in 5 minutes, a stagehand announced. As Lily rolled onto the stage to address an audience of Nobel laureates, government officials, and world-renowned scientists, Naomi thought back to that little girl who used to arrange her crayons by wavelength, who saw mathematical patterns in flower petals, who dreamed of understanding how the universe worked. Good evening, everyone. When I was 8 years old, my father threw my mother and me out of our home on Christmas Eve because he was embarrassed by my disability and couldn't see past my wheelchair to recognize my potential. Lily's speech was powerful, weaving together her personal story with the broader message about identifying and nurturing exceptional minds regardless of physical challenges or circumstances. The greatest tragedy isn't that gifted children exist in poverty or face discrimination. It's that we waste their potential by failing to see it. Every Einstein stuck in an inadequate classroom, every Marie Curie dismissed because of bias, every child whose brilliance is overlooked represents a loss for all humanity. The audience was captivated. When Lily finished, the standing ovation lasted nearly 5 minutes. Later, at the reception, Naomi watched her daughter discuss quantum mechanics with Nobel Prize winners who treated her as an intellectual equal. Dr. Williams, now in her 60s but still sharp as ever, approached with tears in her eyes. Look at her, Naomi. Look what she's become. She's exactly who she always was, Naomi replied. We just finally gave her room to show it. The next morning, they were having breakfast in their Stockholm hotel when Lily's phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID and her expression grew complicated. It's him, she said quietly. Robert. Over the years he had reached out occasionally, letters, emails, always respectful, never demanding. Lily had chosen not to respond until now. Do you want to take it? Naomi asked. After a moment's hesitation, Lily answered. Hello, Robert. Naomi could hear his voice, shaky with emotion, though not the words. I saw your speech online, Lily said. Thank you for saying that. Yes, I know you're proud. I appreciate that, but I think we both know it's too late for that kind of relationship. No, I'm not angry. I'm grateful actually. Because if you hadn't made us leave, I might never have discovered who I really am. Take care of yourself, Robert. She hung up and looked at her mother with those wise eyes that had seen so much. How do you feel? Naomi asked. Free, Lily said simply. I forgive him because holding on to anger would just take up space in my brain that I need for more important things. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean pretending he was a good father. That afternoon they received a call that would change everything once again. Dr. Foster from the MacArthur Foundation was on the line. Lily, congratulations on your Nobel Symposium presentation. But I'm calling about something else. We'd like to offer you a MacArthur Fellowship. The MacArthur Genius Grant, $800,000 over 5 years, no strings attached, to pursue whatever research called to her. At 16? Lily asked. Age has never been a factor in recognizing exceptional minds. Your contributions to quantum computing theory and your advocacy for twice exceptional children have already changed the world. We want to support whatever you do next. After they hung up, Lily was quiet for a long time. Mama, remember when we were sitting in that diner on Christmas Eve, and you didn't know where we were going to sleep? I remember. Did you ever imagine this? Any of this? Naomi thought about that terrifying night when her biggest hope was finding a safe place for her daughter to sleep. Honestly? No. I just wanted you to be okay. I wanted you to be happy and healthy and know that you were loved. But I'm more than okay now. I'm exactly where I belong, doing work that matters with people who understand me. And it all started with that awful night when everything fell apart. They sat in comfortable silence, looking out at the Stockholm harbor where the northern lights were just beginning to dance across the sky. Lily, Naomi said finally, what's next for you? With the MacArthur grant, you could do anything. I want to start a foundation. For kids like I was, twice exceptional children whose gifts are hidden by their challenges. I want to make sure no child ever has to wait until they're 8 years old to be seen for who they really are. Naomi felt her heart swell with pride. Even with all her achievements, all her accolades, all her groundbreaking research, Lily's biggest dream was still to help other children. That sounds perfect. And Mama? I want you to run it with me. You're the one who taught me that loving someone means seeing them completely, not just the parts that are easy to understand. The foundation needs that kind of wisdom. 6 months later, they stood together at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Carter Foundation for Twice Exceptional Children. The building was state-of-the-art, designed to be fully accessible while providing the kind of advanced academic environment that gifted children needed. Grandma Rose, now 78 and still sharp as ever, wielded the golden scissors. This is for every child who's been told they can't because of what they look like, how they move, or where they come from, she announced to the crowd. Every child deserves to be seen for the gifts they bring to this world. As the ribbon fell away, Naomi watched children stream into the building. Kids in wheelchairs working alongside kids with autism, children with learning differences collaborating with children from poverty, all of them brilliant, all of them finally in a place designed to nurture their exceptional minds. Dr. Williams, now serving as the Foundation's chief psychologist, approached with a familiar smile. Naomi, we have our first success story. Remember Emma, the little girl who wrote to Lily after the CBS interview? Naomi remembered, the 8-year-old who understood calculus but couldn't write legibly. She's 16 now and just received early admission to 4 universities. Her research on adaptive learning algorithms is already being implemented in schools across the country. And she credits Lily's story with saving her academic life, added Emma's mother, who had joined them for the ceremony. Seeing Lily succeed despite her challenges gave us hope that Emma could succeed despite hers. As the day wore on, Naomi found herself thinking about the long, winding path that had brought them here. The pain of that Christmas Eve eviction, the terror of homelessness, the struggle to prove Lily's worth to a custody court, the years of fighting for recognition and resources, all of it had led to this moment. That evening, as they sat in their new office overlooking the Foundation's learning labs, Lily asked a question that surprised her. Mama, do you ever wonder what great-great-grandma Rose meant when she said some gifts come wrapped in the worst circumstances? Naomi looked at her daughter, now 17, a MacArthur Fellow, a published researcher, a voice for the voiceless, but still the same curious child who saw connections others missed. I think she meant that sometimes we have to lose everything we thought we wanted to discover what we were actually meant to have, Naomi said. Your disability wasn't a gift, it's just part of who you are. But being forced to leave that old life, being pushed to discover your intellectual gifts, learning to advocate for yourself and others, maybe that was the gift wrapped in difficult circumstances. Lily nodded thoughtfully. And maybe the real gift wasn't my intelligence. Maybe it was having a mother who never stopped believing I was worth fighting for, even when she didn't know what she was fighting toward. As they prepared to lock up for the night, Naomi noticed a new letter addressed to Lily, forwarded from MIT. The return address showed only a first name, Emma, and a prison address. Another one, Lily said, opening it carefully. The letter was from a young woman serving time for robbery, who had recently been given access to educational programs. She had tested as profoundly gifted but had never been identified as a child. She was writing to thank Lily for proving that intelligence could be found anywhere, in anyone regardless of circumstances. I'm going to write her back, Lily said. And I'm going to see if we can get educational programs into more correctional facilities. Genius doesn't stop existing just because society failed to nurture it early. Driving home through the Chicago streets they had walked homeless on that December night 7 years ago, Naomi reflected on the extraordinary truth of their journey, that the worst thing that had ever happened to them had ultimately led to the most beautiful life they could have imagined. At home, Grandma Rose was waiting with tea and the photo album she'd been organizing. Look what I found, she said, showing them a picture of 3-year-old Lily arranging her blocks in mathematical patterns. Even then she was trying to tell us who she was. We should have listened sooner, Naomi said. Child, you listened exactly when you were supposed to. Some stories need to be difficult to make them powerful. Lily's story isn't just about a smart child, it's about resilience, advocacy, and the courage to keep fighting for what's right even when the world tells you you're wrong. Later, as Naomi tucked 17-year-old Lily into bed surrounded by quantum physics textbooks and foundation planning documents, she asked the same question she'd asked years ago. Sweet dreams, my brilliant girl. Mama? Lily said just as she had as a child. Thank you for seeing me before I could see myself. Thank you for teaching me that being different isn't the same as being less than. And thank you for showing me that when life breaks you open, it's just making room for bigger dreams. As Naomi turned off the light, she realized that the greatest gift hadn't been Lily's intelligence or their eventual success. The greatest gift had been learning that love, real, unconditional, fierce love, could transform any tragedy into triumph. Outside, snow began to fall just as it had on that Christmas Eve 7 years ago. But this time, the snow looked like possibility dancing in the light. Sometimes the most beautiful stories began with the most broken moments. And sometimes losing everything was the only way to discover that you were capable of having anything. Their Christmas miracle hadn't been a single moment of divine intervention. It had been the daily miracle of a mother's love, a child's resilience, and the extraordinary things that became possible when people chose to see beyond limitations to the infinite potential that lived within.